We're recording right
Okay, welcome back to the Man of Culture podcast. I know it's been a while since the last episode, but we're trying to get back on schedule as far as getting these episodes out relatively frequently. Here we are going to be talking about episode 5 of Percy Jackson and the Olympians, season 1. This episode is the episode where they go and we get to meet Ares for the first time. This is to give kind of context as to what happened last time. You know, they had just been attacked, well, Percy more so than Grover and Annabeth, but they had been attacked by the Chimera. They kind of got stranded. Percy kind of pushed them out into the hall away from where the Chimera was so that he would face the Chimera alone. Percy being completely unmatched, or, you know, being, you know, way out of his league kind of thing, you know, here. Like, he was completely outmatched by the Chimera.
Right.
Was on the brink of death, fell down, and Poseidon used the water from the Mississippi River to kind of bring him in, heal him of his wounds, or of the poison that was flowing through his veins and whatnot.
Yeah.
And then it kind of ends right there where, like, he kind of learns that he can breathe underwater. And so the next episode starts kind of like literally seconds right after that, where we're back and we see Percy under the water. He's breathing, and then like this water spirit comes and talks to him to tell him, well, they don't really show that specifically, like all of it, but like he needs to go to Santa Monica because his dad is going to help him on the quest, right? And so we see from this point on, Percy's outlook on the quest does change a lot, and it kind of did here in the book too, because Percy believed that his dad wanted nothing to do with him, and he had no care for him, and the only reason why he claimed him was because he needed him to kind of do this job for him, right? But now that he sees that Poseidon saved him, it's not just about saving his mom anymore. He truly does care about, you know, ending this war and doing right by his dad because his dad saved him. Like, that is really all that Percy wanted from his dad, was to be there for him, and in the most crucial moment, he was there.
Yeah.
So because of that, Percy's outlook changes. So Percy gets out of the water, he sees both Annabeth and Grover, and then he kind of explains to them that they need to go to Santa Monica, and then Grover's like, well, the police think that we're the ones that attacked the arch, so it might be pretty hard for us to kind of travel from here on out. Yeah. So they're not able to get tickets for a train or a bus or anything because the cops are actively looking for them, so they try to just sneak away before Ares kind of pulls over on his motorcycle and offers them some help. So this is quite different than how it went in the book. Like I said, there's a lot of differences between the show and the book from this point on.
Yeah.
So in the book, like, if you remember from last episode, I said in the book, like, they actually just ended up stopping at the arch. The train that they were on had a layaway at the arch, so everybody got off the train to kind of just observe it and like hang out there for like about an hour or so before the train left off again, right? So in the book, they get on Percy. He still falls into the water, even though the water is directly underneath the arch in the book. That's not geographically correct. The way that they have it in the show is Rick Riordan just was simply mistaken about the location of the water. But like, so he gets out of the water. Another detail is that in the book, Percy actually does not get wet from the water unless he wants to. So in the book, Percy actually walks out of the water and is completely dry. And even but there's so much destruction from the Chimera and Echidna. Like a little kid is like, "Mommy, look, this kid just walked out of the water and he's completely dry." And the mom's like, "Oh, that's nice, honey." Like the mom is like not taking what the kid says seriously at all and is not paying attention. But here in the show, like, Percy gets out of the water and he's clearly wet. Like, that was another detail that I wish they would have kept the same. That's not the end of the world. It's not a huge problem. But it's just like I can't help but imagine like what does that really offer by having Percy get wet from the water.
Right. Yeah. It didn't really serve much of a purpose, I guess. They wanted to add that little bit of like, oh, he's supposed to go outside in the sun, like
Yeah. I mean, he can still control the water, obviously, and he can still breathe in the water, and the water obviously does make him stronger. I mean, he was poisoned, and he fell into the Mississippi River, and now all of a sudden he's all good. So it still functions, like all of Percy's abilities and, you know, kind of the things, like the attributes that Percy has are still pretty similar for the most part. It's just that one thing. It's kind of a little bit of a nitpick, but I also can't help imagine, but why would it wouldn't hurt at all to like really just put that in. But it is what it is. It's like, so continuing on, like when in the book they get on the train and then they keep heading westward on the train. They end up stopping in Denver because that was pretty much the only, like, they did not have enough money to go any farther than Denver by train. So they end up getting to Denver, and then they go into the diner, have no money, they try to order food, and then Ares walks in. It's like, oh yeah, it's all good, that's on me, right? So that's when we meet Ares in the book, but it's quite different here because they don't have the option to ride the train in the show, so they're just walking on foot, planning on heading all the way over to Los Angeles from walking from St. Louis. So, and then Ares drives by and is like, oh, you guys need some help, you guys are way off track, and kind of reveals himself as Ares, the god of war. And like one little aspect that I wish they would have included was that like Ares, because like he is the god of war, he kind of like radiates with some aura that like literally just pisses you off for no reason. Like the aura around him literally just makes you want to it's so strong that it like manipulates people into just wanting to hit each other, right? Like they even describe it in the book that like literally Ares just being there like agitated Percy. Like it like literally made him pissed off. Like, and that's just because that's what he does. Like he's not like, of course he can say things and do things that make you mad, but literally because he's the god of war and because his whole purpose is to fight, he radiates an aura that makes you want to fight. Like, and I wish they would have included that aspect in the show. Like, now, don't get me wrong, I think the guy who played Ares in this show did an amazing job. I think he did really capture kind of the god of war that we know from the books. That is a god that they did really well in this show. Like we talked about how they didn't do Athena well, but I think they did Ares very well, actually. You know, I just kind of wish he would have had that aura, but they still, you know, like they kind of had that a little bit with Annabeth, where like how, you know, Annabeth was kind of like going back and forth a little bit with him. It was actually more so Percy in the books, which that's a little bit of a difference. Annabeth is a little more confrontational at times than Percy can be. Like in the book, Percy was the one who was really kind of going back and forth with Ares and just didn't care. But it was Annabeth in this one, and that was a little out of character because Annabeth is known for being a lot more cautious, and you know, she is known to be a lot more like respecting of the gods, and like she even tells Percy like, you don't want a god on your bad side, especially not that one. Like, but like Percy just doesn't care, right? But like she's the one who's kind of getting on Ares' bad side here, and so that was a little weird to see. And then we have this they kind of talk with him. He says that he can get them a ride to Los Angeles very quickly, but they have to go get his shield. Now, it's the same deal in the book, right? The difference is, and this is where this part kind of really makes some people upset, is that in the show, they split them up. In the book, all three of them go to the water park together, right? So, the thing is that they do split them up a little bit in the book, but because only Percy and Annabeth go into the love tunnel ride. But it was kind of funny in the book because like Annabeth was like very hesitant to try and go in there because like she was very embarrassed of the idea of like her and Percy going into the tunnel of love, right? And so she was all like, she got like really freaked out. She's like, "What? You want me to go in there with you?" Like, and then Percy's like, "Well, the shield's in there. What do you expect us to do?" And she's like, I can't stand the idea of being seen, like, us together in the tunnel of love. And he's like, "Well, suit yourself." And then he starts just walking. And then Annabeth gets frustrated and she's like, starts muttering about how stupid boys are and whatnot, and then just follows him in. Like, but that wasn't there at all. They kind of just walked into the ride in the show. And like, then the way that like they kind of progressed through the tunnel of love, again, it was completely different in the book. In the book, they at one point like they have mechanical spiders start to attack them, and like this is kind of where we see Annabeth's fear of spiders, because they mention this later on in the series, but like Athena essentially cursed a woman and turned her into the very first spider. And every spider on the planet is essentially a child of her. And so because of that, they are constantly seeking out Athena's children for revenge, right? And so that is why Annabeth and all of Athena's children have a fear of spiders, but they did not explore that at all in this episode. So it is what it is, I guess. But like, so in the book, the spiders were attacking them. Annabeth is scared out of her mind because even though they're not real spiders, they're mechanical spiders, and she doesn't see the difference really. And then this was meant to be like a whole like kind of trap for both Ares and Aphrodite, because Ares and Aphrodite are dating, and they kind of mentioned this in the show too, but they're dating. And Hephaestus doesn't like that because Aphrodite's his wife, so he always tries to like catch them and embarrass them in front of everybody. So he purposefully planned to like catch them in this theme park of his and like record it live of them being attacked by spiders and whatnot, and like record it and show it to everyone on Olympus kind of thing, right? But Ares knew this was gonna happen, so he sent Percy and the gang to go and get his shield that he left there because he had to get out of there quickly. And then Percy and Annabeth are the ones being shot live to Olympus, right? And then the ride starts going really fast, and they actually have to jump out of the seat before it crashes into a wall in order to live. Then they get the shield, they leave, they go to Ares, they get their ride to Los Angeles. Well, they end up stopping in Vegas, but like for the Lotus Casino. But that's following the next episode, right? So here in the show, it's very different because like we can pretty much know that it's Hephaestus's like his theme park, like right from the start, because they go and they see like the Celestial Bronze gate, which that's another thing that now I'm mentioning it. They actually to this point had never even mentioned what Celestial Bronze is and why it's significant, because Celestial Bronze is able to kill monsters and inflicts pain on demigods as well, right? Monsters cannot be killed by normal weapons, so if you were to take a handgun, and try to shoot the Minotaur with it, it would not do anything, because those weapons are not designed to kill these monsters, right? So that's why items like Celestial Bronze, and we learn much later in the series, Imperial Gold, weapons, like materials like this are severely significant because they're the only things that work against the monsters, right? But they also hurt demigods too, and they hurt, you can inflict pain on a god with Celestial Bronze or Imperial Gold, right? So this is the first time that they mention Celestial Bronze because the gate is made out of it. And Annabeth mentions that, yeah, it can hurt demigods too. And at this point, Percy doesn't even know what Celestial Bronze is. He's like, "What's Celestial Bronze?" She's like, "That's what your sword is made out of." But I'm like, in the book, they mention that Celestial Bronze is a material that can kill monsters. Like, we're talking like literally when Percy gets to Half-Blood, they mention that in the book. And I didn't mention that sooner because I kind of forgot about that aspect. Again, sometimes it slips past my mind that some of these things are just, not really mentioned in the show because I have my prior knowledge of the book that kind of just lets me know so I don't have to think about it, right? But they didn't mention Celestial Bronze up until now. Here we are, 5 episodes. Over half of the season is done now. And I feel that just kind of crazy that they did not mention Celestial Bronze at all until now. A material that is so important to this universe, they wait 5 episodes to even mention it at all? Or they wait 5 episodes to even, tell us why Percy's sword is so significant? Why is Percy's sword so special? Other than the fact that it turns into a pen? Why is, what's stopping, me from just shooting the Minotaur or whatnot, or any of these monsters? But now we're kind of getting the context of Celestial Bronze is important because this works against the monsters. Other things do not. So we get that aspect of it. They know that it's Hephaestus from the start because of the type of machinery kind of fits his MO, So they get into the water park, they go on the ride, they kind of see the little slideshow that is telling them, showing Hephaestus' life, and Percy recognizes it because his mom has told him stories of the gods and all of that. So they end up continuing through the ride, and then this is where it really differs because there's no spiders at all. There's no mechanical spiders in this one. And Hephaestus actually makes an appearance. In the books, we actually don't get a full-on appearance and a conversation between the gang and Hephaestus until book 4. He makes appearances here and there. Obviously when you have the gods on Olympus, but we do not get a conversation between Percy, Annabeth, and Hephaestus until book 4 in the books. Well, we actually get it here in this episode in the show, right? So they go through the ride. They end up at the chair that is holding Ares' shield. Now, in order for them to get the shield, someone has to sit in the chair and be completely stuck by the chair. So Percy sits in the chair, willingly gives himself up so that Annabeth can continue the quest and take the shield to Ares so that they can continue and stop this war, right? So Percy and Annabeth have grown really close by this. At this point, she's like, okay, well, I got the shield, now I'm going to try to get him out. Then Hephaestus comes out. And I will say that while I do think that this guy did a good job with Hephaestus, I do think that the clothes that they had him wear did not really feel like Hephaestus. Hephaestus is supposed to look very like a blacksmith. This guy looked like a college professor. Now, I'm not saying that about him specifically. I think that they probably could have, maybe given him some goggles, or again, have him wear just have him be wearing, anything that be wearing gloves or something like that, or be wearing some type of vest to protect him from forging materials and whatnot, right? Or just to have some grease stains on him because he's constantly working with machines. Have him wearing clothes that you would expect a blacksmith to wear, instead of kind of wearing this suit and dress pants and this vest. Again, he looked the way that he was dressed and presented looked more like a college professor than a blacksmith. And that is kind of where my problems lie with him. I think, again, his delivery of the character was fine. I just don't think that the clothes that they had him wear for this role made sense. Because Hephaestus is a blacksmith, not a college professor. That was kind of my take on it. Other than that, I don't really have a problem with him at all. I just think that it was weird for the way that they presented him was kind of weird. But other than that, that's not a problem. But to have the conversation between Annabeth and Hephaestus. I actually like that because like it really showed that like she's grown really close to Percy over time, and you know, Percy has had an influence on her because before she's kind of like, you know, well, the gods do what the gods do, right? But Percy has this whole time has been saying, you know, that's not right. Like, you shouldn't treat your family that way. Like, you know, taking, you know, just seeking power and, you know, not caring who you have to step on in order to get there. Like, Percy's like, no, that's messed up. There's no reason for that. Like, you know, why do I have to, you know, go to the ends of the earth just to get, you know, my family to notice me? Like, it shouldn't be that way. People who care about you should not treat you that way. That is what Percy has been saying, you know, just from the start of the series. And, you know, Annabeth has really started to believe that. And, you know, she even says that, like, you know, fighting each other and snatching power and not caring who gets hurt in the process, or not really caring who you gotta, you know, all of those stuck in between that you're pulling around to kind of accomplish this goal. She's like, that's not right. She's like, you know, the gods are like that, her mother is like that, but Percy's not. You know, she's like, Percy's better than that. And she's like, we can all be better than that. And, you know, because of that, she's like grown really close to Percy, and it's like really upsetting that he's stuck in this chair. And, you know, again, she's really started to like really grow close to him, and like when he's sitting in the chair and she's like begging him to sit up, and you know, that scene was like heartbreaking to me because it's like she's sitting like, no, Percy, like stand up and we'll find another way, I mean it. And then he's like, no, he's like, you know, he's like, let's just face it, like you were better at this than me. Like, you know, if anyone is to lead this quest, it needs to be you. Like, she's like, you can make it to the underworld and you can stop this war, but you know, this is where my quest ends, kind of thing. And then it was like, when he asked her, he was like, I just have one thing for you. And then she was like, I won't leave without your mother. And then he says, thank you, right? Like, that to me was a very emotional moment. And then just to have her again talking to Hephaestus, and was really able to kind of change Hephaestus's mind on everything too. And kind of ends up letting Percy go. You know, it was that scene I thought was actually really good. It was very different than how it ran in the book, but I actually thought that was a really good scene.
Yeah, that scene in particular was like, it was very hard to watch. It was like, you know, they like started to have like a semblance of a relationship, and then they were like, you know, now Percy's kind of like, you know, he thinks very lowly of himself in this world of like, you know, Greek gods and all of this, you know what I mean? Despite like, you know, him just like, you know, two shits about how he pisses them off or anything, but he really doesn't see himself as much in like the grand scheme of things. And so he was very like willing to make that sacrifice as long as his mother was okay, you know?
Yeah.
Like, he was very, like, you know, he essentially was, like, taking, like, an act of bravery and sacrificing himself for the greater good of, I guess, like, the objective. And, you know, I think the scene with Hephaestus that followed afterwards was still, I did not like it. I do understand where, I think maybe you had mentioned this before, where it comes off a little like, you know, Disney magic-ish. You know what I'm saying? It's like, oh, you know, he'll just let him go. There's a little bit at the end of the chair. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's fine. Ain't for fools. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, you know, it's like, you have a feeling. You're like, this show is called Percy Jackson. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's not gonna be in this chair for like the rest of the series, bro. Like, it's just not happening. You know what I mean? And so, like, yeah, it was bittersweet, but I was like, it's some Disney magic that's happening. But yeah, I don't think it took away from the impact of the scene to me. I just think that, like, you know, like, I think anybody watching this was kind of gonna expect that, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, like, they gotta get out. They have to make it out, and they have to stop the war from happening, right? So, like, I mean, we all know that, yeah, they have to make it out just fine, and everything is all good at the end because they save the world, right? They have to. We know that that's gonna happen. They're the protagonists. They're the good guys. They're the people we're rooting for, right? So we all know that that's gonna happen, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But I don't think that took away from the scene at all. Like, I thought that this was a really good scene. Like, I know that, like, again, some of the fans of the Percy Jackson series are also kind of said similar things to me about Festus, how, like, his attire didn't really feel like something that you would expect Festus to wear. But at the end of the day, I think that he was still able to kind of capture the idea that the gods have. Again, like, the gods do not mind fighting each other for power. I mean, that's part of the reason why Zeus is even threatening to start a war in the first place, because even though, like, you know, he's using the bolt, the master bolt, as kind of his, like, reasoning, but that's kind of just like the spark, right? Like, Zeus wants to just have a war because he wants to have a war. I mean, Ares even kind of said it. If anybody knows anyone's intentions for starting a war, it's gonna be this guy.
Yeah,
like,
of course.
And he's like, I think he just wants to have a war, so we're gonna have a war.
Yeah, at that point, he was just looking to scrap. He didn't care. Like, he was just like, I'm ready. You know what I'm saying? Like, I need, like, something needs to give. Like, you know.
Yeah, and they even mention it later in the series, and they mention it in the book, that, like, World War II was or, like, some of the wars in general throughout history, a lot of times it was, like, demigods involved, like, fighting against, you know, other demigods that are representing other gods. Like, a lot of wars in the history, a lot of, like, the actual wars that we as human beings have had in our history, the gods have had influence over that. Like, and obviously you have Ares because he's the god of war, but, like, in many wars, like, it was really just the demigods and representing the god that they stand for fighting against each other. Like, they mentioned that later on in the books, that is what a lot of the wars throughout human history turned out to be in this universe, right? So that's how they were seeing it here, is that, like, you know, this guy wants to have a war and he wants to just, you know, have his demigods fight for him, so that's kind of what he wants to do. Like,
I mean, pretty much.
and what Zeus wants to do, Zeus wants to do. So, I mean, I definitely think that, like, they definitely did a good job with that. I think they could have given a little more details with that, but, you know, I think as far as, like, again, with Ares saying, well, he wants to have a war, so we're gonna have a war, and then he kind of, like, does the little fake tears. He's like, isn't my family great? Like,
Yeah, you know what I mean? It's like he was excited. It's like he acted like Christmas came. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Oh my god, like, our family's
Also, I did think it was kind of funny to have, like, Ares being, like, starting like fights on Twitter. Like, he was on his phone, and then he was like, "Oh, sorry, I'm just starting wars on Twitter here." Like,
that was easy. Like, bro, like, especially like with your and mine's, like, experience on Twitter, like, bro, like, it's that's diabolical that somebody even sits there just to start arguing.
this guy is really the one friend, the one social media friend that just shows up just to disagree.
Yeah,
Like,
facts.
that's what this man was doing. He was just disagreeing with everything just so that he could start arguments online. Like,
he was definitely a hater. He was definitely a hater, bro. There's no way you can convince me that this man was not, like, an ultra hater, bro.
but I did like, I know that, like, in the book they did have all three of them go to the water park, even though Grover stayed behind and waited for them, like, at the entrance kind of thing. But, like, here, we got to see Grover kind of talk to Ares and kind of try to get information out of him. And like I thought it was hilarious when like he was talking when Grover was talking to Ares and he was like, your sister, she likes to make things overly complicated just so they make it look like she's smarter than everybody else in the room. And then Ares is like, thank you, somebody finally realizes. And I thought that was pretty funny too, because it felt like this man was like literally thinking this the whole time for millennia, that this woman just makes things more complicated to make herself look smarter, and he's like, and no one sees it. And so it's like, finally, this man is like, finally, someone understands what I've been trying to say this whole time. Like,
just like unbridled validation that he needed for that interaction with his, like, for what he thought about his sister. Just years of that built up, he finally had something just like understood. Like, yes, finally.
yeah, and like literally thousands of years of these thoughts. Like, we're not just talking a few years. We're not talking centuries. We're talking thousands of years that this man has felt this way, and it took thousands of years for someone else to finally say the same things that he's been saying the whole time, right?
It's funny too, because you think to yourself, like, it's probably not just him who thinks it, but like he's the only person like who wants to talk about it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he's the only person bringing it up. Like, I don't think it's like, oh, Zeus doesn't know this, so like, oh, like all the other gods don't know this. It's just like, yo, they just keep silent about it, bro.
Yeah, I mean, like, just like going off of the lore of Percy Jackson alone, I mean, Athena is like highly regarded by the rest of the Olympians. I mean, like, she is usually like one of the first people that like Zeus goes to for anything. So like, I mean, like, Zeus kind of sees her as like, again, he kind of puts her up on a pedestal a little bit because he does value like Athena's input more so than others. So like, they do see Athena very highly. Like, everyone kind of does. The Olympians, demigods, everybody. I mean, they look at the children of Athena very highly because they share a lot of the same traits with her.
Yeah.
So, and then Ares, like, again, like, they kind of even like show it a little bit in the books, but like, Ares is kind of looked as almost like an outcast in a way, because they're like, oh, he's the god of war, like, they just want to fight all the time kind of thing, right? And like, his children are kind of seen that way too. So it's kind of just how they see it, right? They kind of just look at it like, Athena's the smart one, Ares is the dumb one that is all brawn, no brain kind of thing, right?
That's typically how that played out.
And then, but like, Grover was kind of doing it all to kind of get information out of Ares, to like see if like Ares knew more than he was letting on, kind of thing, right?
Oh yeah, he was in his interrogation level. He wasn't like making it obvious that he was like interrogating. He just wanted to make him feel like he was like that.
Yeah. So like, that was like really cool on Grover's part to like be able to do that. Like, again, like, he knows that Ares knows more than he is saying. So he's like, interrogating him without making it look like he's interrogating him. Again, he's saying things like, oh, he's a big fan of him, and he mentioned some of the smaller wars that like people don't really talk about, but then he was like, but war is war. Like, sometimes the smaller ones that don't have as many casualties still have a big effect, kind of thing, and he was really validating Ares a lot to kind of get him talking,
Yeah.
And so, like, by the end of the episode, then he kind of says, like, he thinks he knows who stole the Master Bolt, right?
Yeah.
So Percy and Annabeth bring the shield. They're like, all right, so where's our ride? And then it kind of cuts over to, like, Ares, like, sitting behind a truck. He snaps his fingers and the truck opens. And he tells them the truck is going to be able to have them to Vegas by the next night. And so they get on the truck, and this truck is actually like they don't say it in the show. Again, I don't know why. I don't know why it would hurt to just include this. But this truck is a illegal truck that is like smuggling animals around. We're talking lions and zebras and stuff. So, but this is an illegal truck that like is mistreating these animals, but it's heading to Vegas. So Ares got it for them. It's a free ride to Vegas as long as they don't get caught by the smugglers. So. And like he gives them kind of supplies to kind of get them through the rest of the quest. And in one of the bags in the book, actually I remember this pretty vividly, partially because I read the books recently, but like one of the bags that he gave them had like a whole big family pack of double stuffed Oreos. And they're like eating the Oreos while they're on this truck with the animals, and Grover can talk to the animals, so he's talking to them while they're eating the Oreos. Like that I thought was a little funny in the book. That doesn't happen in the show, but he still does give them like kind of the backpack and whatnot. And the backpack does play a role for something pretty significant once they get to the underworld. But we'll talk about that when we get there. But yeah, he does kind of. He gets them that ride to Vegas, which ends up leading to the end of the episode. It kind of ends right where Grover was saying that he thinks he knows who stole the Master Bolt. And that's where the episode ends. So the next episode will pick up where they're still on the truck and they end up going to the Lotus Casino. But we'll save that one for next time. That is going to be quite the ride, I will say that. Yeah, I thought this one was good. I thought this one was a little bit better than the last one. I did really like Ares a lot. Like I said, I thought the guy that they chose for this role did an amazing job. I mean, one thing that I did actually forget to mention that happened earlier in the episode is we actually did see the Fates in this episode, and like that is a pretty big deal because like that plays a pretty big role in the story. Because the Fates cut a string and they're like, oh, well, that means someone's gonna die, right? That happens a little out of place here. I mean, this happened, it happened a lot sooner in the book. It happened before they even got to Camp Half-Blood. So that's where it happened in the book, because Percy and Grover were heading home after school, right after the end of the school year, and they see the Fates cut the yarn. But here we see them cut the yarn at the arch. And it was kind of just thrown in. Honestly, like it was just kind of just thrown in right there, just be like, okay, put the Fates here, like that's how it kind of felt. Like
it was a very random scene,
yeah, it didn't really make sense to put there, to be honest. Like it literally just felt like, oh well, we need to put the Fates somewhere. Okay, just throw them right here, and then I'll be fine. Like that's literally how it felt that they did that. They included it though, so that does play a very big role in the story going forward. It's not going to be revealed by this season. It's not going to be revealed by the next season, and it won't be revealed by that next season after that. But I promise you it'll be revealed its importance later on. It actually kind of will come full circle at the end of the series. That's how long this little portion of the storyline actually takes to kind of come around. But yeah, it is, a part of the story that is going to span multiple books. So that's something that you want to keep in mind moving forward as we continue through this season, the next season, and the next season, and then the season after that, and then finally the 5th season, which is the last book. So, yeah, pretty important part of the story. I do like that they included it, but I do think it just kind of felt out of place there. I mean, like, it just felt like they kind of were like, well, we need to throw this in because this part of the story is so important that we really can't afford to lose it, especially considering that it's going to come full circle at the end. But like, we don't know where to put it, but it has to go somewhere, kind of thing, right? So they just threw it there. But like, other than that, I do think this episode was good. I kind of liked the aspect of Grover talking to Ares and like kind of interrogating him without making it seem like he was, and I did like the conversation between Annabeth and Hephaestus, and you know, I do like how Percy being saved by his dad completely changes his mindset as far as this quest goes, and you know, I did really like a lot of things about this episode. Again, Ares is amazing. I thought the Waterland theme park, while much different than it was in the book, I don't think it was really that much of a problem. A couple of nitpicks, like I said, I also think it was kind of weird that they waited so long to mention Celestial Bronze.
Yeah.
But like, at the end of the day, I don't think. I mean, it's not enough for me to say that like, oh, well, this episode sucks. But it is kind of weird that they waited this long to get to that, considering that Celestial Bronze, and like I said, they mentioned way later in the series Imperial Gold. Like, these materials are so important to killing monsters. So it's just weird that we're just now getting to that point, especially considering that we've already run into monsters at this point. So it's like, it was really weird that they waited that long for it. But other than that, like I said, I thought like the whole chair scene, while some people don't like it, I actually did like it a lot. It was very emotional, and like you said, it's hard to watch, but something can be hard to watch in a good way because it's so emotional, right?
That's true.
Like, it really gets you invested in it, right? And I think that scene did a really good job of that. And then they go and drop the shield up at Ares' feet and said, "All right, where's our ride?" And then we end up going onto the truck. But like, yeah, overall, I thought it was a good episode. There are plenty of differences from the book, but like, and many of which you could argue are unnecessary, because you can make that argument that basically any change is unnecessary. But like, at the end of the day, I don't think the changes from this episode were enough to make the episode bad. And I'll tell you right now that this episode is a masterpiece compared to the next one. So,
oh boy, brace yourself, folks. Brace yourself.
Yeah, you gotta brace yourself from the next one, because the next one is the Lotus Casino, which, you know, we're not going to talk about in detail now, but they butchered that episode so badly. They butchered the Lotus Casino so badly, and we will go more into detail on that next time around. So, I want to thank you guys all for watching this episode of the Men of Culture podcast. I know that our schedule has not been consistent as of late, but we are trying to be better about that, and hopefully we can have the episode out much sooner than kind of the gap in between episodes 4 and 5. But yeah, we're definitely gonna do a better job about that. And until next time, I think that's gonna be it. Like, we're looking forward to continuing on with this series. We are over halfway done with the episodes of season 1. So we've only got 3 more left. We got episodes 6, 7, and 8 after this. And then after that, we have plans to move on to Netflix Avatar: The Last Airbender live action. So that one's going to be one heck of a ride there, but we'll focus on that once we get around to it. We want to finish Percy Jackson first.
Of course.
But yeah, I don't have anything else to go here. Just again, thank you guys so much for watching. If you haven't subscribed to the Men of Culture podcast, definitely do, so you will get updated of whenever we upload new episodes. We're going to have a lot more stuff to come around. Like I said, we're going to be finishing this series. We have plans for Netflix Avatar, and possibly some other things in the future too. You know, it doesn't just have to be only TV shows. And no, that's not going to be the main focus of this channel. It's going to be a lot of just stuff that we like to talk about, just things that we feel like we can analyze and have a discussion about, because at the end of the day, that's what this is meant to be, a cool little discussion about the things we like.
Yep.
So
Absolutely.
definitely stay tuned for all that good stuff in the future. And until next time, this is No Fro from